Welcome back. We are here. I am actually here. The past 2 weeks has been a pre-record, and I apologise, but I have had a chest infection, and now I'm back to let you know that I can really talk to you for an hour. Welcome to the Harley and Josh show. I am Josh Locke. Harley is still away, and he hopefully will be back very, very, very soon. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap you on the last 2 weeks and talk to you a little bit about some music industry news and a little bit about how to book gigs later on. So I'm going to try and give you a little bit of extra help with your band. But for now, I want to just let you know that we are talking about Sofar Sounds, the London-based gig promoter, have overhauled its artist compensation system because of a pretty big lawsuit. So we're going to be talking about that. Spotify is allowing bootleg podcasts to bypass a lot of the chart system and stopping artists from getting compensation. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about the UK has offered a firm post-Brexit immigration system, and we're going to talk about how that will affect the music industry. And I mean, there's always ands. We have music from the amazing Surfquake, For the Hornets, we have Marigolds and Barney Holmes. So we've got so much to do, so I better get cracking on, really, should I? So let's talk about it. What did I do? Oh my goodness, I have been a mess for the past 2 weeks. I'm going to moan for a bit. So basically, the last time I spoke to you guys, I was teaching after that, and while I was teaching, there was a student there who was very ill and should not have been there. His parents were mean to him and made him come, and basically I caught that, and it started off as a flu and developed into a chest infection. Now it's still going on, basically, and that was almost 3 weeks ago now. And basically what the problem with that is I am self-employed. So I'm a music teacher and a gigging musician, and that's how I earn my money. If I don't do those things, then I don't earn any money. And when you are coughing your guts up, sputtering and throwing up, there's not really much you can do. So I've basically had almost 3 weeks off work, which has been torture, absolute torture. And like it's quite a high functioning industry, the one that we work in. You're constantly out and about every single day, either promoting or teaching or gigging or just all the different things that come along with being part of the music industry. And being completely inactive destroys you. It really did. I was just feeling completely useless, absolutely no kind of direction during the day. It would just be like, I can't do anything. So here we go. I'll just give you my kind of breakdown of what actually happened. So what happened was I caught it on the Monday, cancelled work on Thursday. So I still went to work the Tuesday and the Wednesday, even though it was awful. And I was still being really stubborn. So I still went to work on the Saturday morning at Bravo School of Rock, but I couldn't drive. My girlfriend had to drive me. Thank you, Frankie. Because if I did, I would have crashed because I was way too lightheaded. I taught for 2 hours, and I just literally had to phone it in. Usually I would stay for the third hour and teach during the performance sessions, but I was just like, I really have to go home. Went home, napped, and then stupidly went and did a gig that night because I was just like, I can't cancel this gig. It was I'd been looking forward to it for months. It was a Buccaneers, so a Buccaneers gig. My other band, so my main band is JS and the Lockabillys doing rockabilly stuff, and my second band at the moment is JS and the Buccaneers, which does pirate themed sea shanties, etc. So basically I thought, well, I'm supposed to sound like a pirate. My voice was a bit like this for like the whole of the week. So I thought, there we go, that'll work. And I think that is exactly what turned it into a chest infection. I pushed myself too hard, and it just settled itself in my chest. It was a really, really nice gig. Like from what I was there for. Turned up sort of about an hour before we were going to play. Did the sound check, sort of in balls of sweat and coughing and phlegm. luckily they had some anti-back wipes afterwards to wipe down the microphone, and all the musicians and sound technicians stayed away from me. Speaking of sound technicians, thank you Ian Crow for doing sound that night. It was just the best we'd sounded. It was one of the best gigs we'd played, actually, apart from my voice being just, sounding like a drunken sailor, but I guess that works. Then it just sounded so good. It was a really good crowd there, which I'm really happy about, because the last time I saw Hot Tramp in Ipswich at the Three Eyes Monkeys, it wasn't attended well enough at all. And seeing a really well-attended gig for a Hot Tramp show was it really warmed my heart, because I love that band and they need to be seen. So yeah, I didn't stay for their gig. For their set, I went home, and that was the last bit of work I did. Up until I basically cancelled all teaching the next week. So I was supposed to be at Rendlesham, I was supposed to be at Moorland. They've got performances coming up, and I just said, look, I can't. I will pass it to them. So I just literally can't do it. So I cancelled teaching all that week. Spent the whole time under a quilt on the couch. I watched the film Heavy Metal. I'd never seen that film before, and that is a crazy film. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen it, it's basically a collection of short stories, animated short stories, sort of based around this glowing green orb which sort of controls people's minds and corrupts them. But it just takes that kind of premise and runs with it, with so many different writers and voice actors. There's some great voice actors in there. John Candy's in it, John Landis. Crazy. I mean, it's was it Eugene Levy, who was like the dad from American Pie? But all the soundtrack's amazing. It's got like Dio, Black Sabbath, all these, I think, Twisted Sisters in there. So it's all these amazing 80s metal bands. If you're ill and you just got to sit there and you can do nothing, just watch that. It's on Netflix. It's just absolutely crazy. Anyway, so I'm coughing so much, like my abs and stuff were hurting, and it made me throw up, which is great. I was chucking up constantly. So when you're on antibiotics, that's not great, because you just chuck them up. I ended up calling 111 because it was sort of not getting better after a course of antibiotics, and they sent an ambulance round. Sat there with the ambulance, had to get rushed off to an out-of-hours GP. I got given sort of steroids and things. Really was completely flat on my back for about a week after that. So I just used it as a way to get on with stuff that I hadn't been able to get on with through while I've been teaching and sort of rushed off my feet planning lessons and stuff. So I've been planning this concept album for about 3 or 4 years now, and I finally finished a first draft script of it while I was sort of on the couch under a quilt and sort of just surrounded by tissues for my nose, and it was so rewarding to be able to just go, wow, I've actually got this thing done now. I've got a first draft done. I'm going to send it to some friends of mine that are writers, probably Meg Burrows and Jamie Chapman. They're very, very good at writing characters. A lot of the characters I'm writing for actually are women as well, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not sure if I've written this true to... I've read a lot of books before written by women that are writing a male character, and I've just been a bit like, that doesn't really resonate. That doesn't sound like something a male character would do or say. So I wanted to sort of say, okay, I don't want to fall into that trap. So I want to write these characters and write their dialogue, and then give it to somebody who's experienced in writing, who's also a woman, to be able to say, okay, they wouldn't do this. That sounds completely our character. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, and that was one benefit of being able to be stuck on the couch all day getting fed soup by Frankie, was to be able to write that. I also did a lot of video editing. I've been doing some tuition videos as my Minute Masterclass thing, where I'm trying to basically teach people how to do certain techniques or concepts in a very short amount of time, because I've been fed up with watching guitar videos that last 20 minutes and teach you one thing. I want to be able to try and do something that teaches you 20 things in 1 minute. So I've been editing that using DaVinci Resolve. If you haven't used DaVinci Resolve, it's an interesting thing. It's a free video editing software that you can get online. No crazy registration necessary, all that sort of stuff. It's basically a very, very in-depth and technical video editing software that's got quite a high, steep learning curve to it, but thank God for YouTube, right? So I've been using that and sort of working out how to do green screen animation, certain clip wipes and making sure that certain light balances are good. So it's been good to be able to kind of learn something while I've been flat on my back sneezing. What else did I do? So I got myself back on my feet by Friday, last Friday. I was covering for All Star Rock School. I was basically, because I'd cancelled 2 of my sessions at All Star Rock School and I needed to just make my time back. So I did the Chelmsford Rock School, which I'd not been to before. It's quite a new one for them. It's at the community centre on this very sort of new estate around there. And so Raina and I went up, took the van up there and set everything up. And that was really good for me to feel like I'd got myself back on my feet. That's kind of like, that was the beginning of me being able to be here today, was being able to sort of do something that felt normal. I had originally, because I took the job sort of 2-3 weeks ago, and originally, apparently, I didn't even know that I was supposed to be teaching singing. I was like, I cannot sing right now. Just not good enough. So we did 2 very long performance sessions for the juniors and the seniors. 2 groups of kids that I'd never met before, and we have to find a way to get them to perform and get them to understand what they're doing on stage, and understand their parts. So that was a good test for me to get myself back into it was like a trial by fire, meet these kids and then get them to perform in front of you in a way that, is helping them to develop and giving them an idea of what it would be like in the real world. And they really rose to the challenge. Like these new kids, they just, the singer from the juniors class, she was absolutely fantastic, taking instruction really well, in front of a bunch of kids that she doesn't know, doesn't go to school with, doesn't hang out with. And she's up there, she's, fist pumping and dancing around and holding onto the microphone and moving the mic stand around. I wasn't giving her singing techniques because I think, that's kind of like, me trying to teach her how to play piano. I'm not very good at piano. And right now, without being able to sing, I think it'd be a bad idea for me to try and teach the singing techniques. I'd just be like, you got to sing like this. Oh, maybe not like that. She blew my mind. There were 2 singers in the second seniors class who started off very nervous, very insular and sort of hugging themselves. And then after a while, I was just acting wacky and sort of being the weirdo, so that they didn't feel like they were weird. I was the weird guy. So they were like, well, I can't look as weird and crazy as that guy. So I think I can express myself a bit here. So really impressed with them. We set everything up, packed everything down in record timing, and got back to where we dropped the van off, and poor old Raina's battery had died on his car, and somehow I was the only bloke there that knew how to jump a car. I think it's because I've been an idiot so many times and let my battery run flat on my cars that I know how to jump a car. I had to do it at Glastonbury, actually. Because I'd left the interior lights on while we were gigging. So we had to get a Land Rover to jump the car, and I was doing that then. Once we had a gig in Ireland and came back, and I'd left the lights on for my Chevy, and we had to wait for the AA for 45 minutes because I didn't have anybody to jump a car. So, oh my goodness. So yeah, we got home okay. And that's really kind of what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. I'm back to work this week. I'm teaching every single night of the week, including Friday and Saturday. So I'm not teaching on Sunday. So I'm really throwing myself back to it. And I'm also gigging tomorrow night, if anybody's interested, at the Chinese Checkers in Stowmarket. It's their Chinese New Year celebration. We've done it the past sort of 2 years. I'm teaching with the amazing Tom Guitarthy, Mr. McCarthy, who has guested on this show a bunch of times. So I think they may have a table or two left. So yeah, if you fancy some really authentic Malaysian food, check that out. It would be really, really, really good. I get some free food at the end of it, and I know it's good, so you should go to check it out. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking about me and I'm going to get onto some interesting music industry topics, news and discussion after a song. So I'm going to show you guys a band that we've played on the show before. They're from Colchester. They're called Surfquake. This is right up my street. They've got rockabilly vibes. They've got surfer vibes. They've got rock and roll, all these kind of tremolo and deep baritone guitars. You've got to check this out. They've got an album out. This one's called Surfer Jet City. Check it out. What an absolute banger that is. That is Surfer Jet City by Surfquake. You can check them out. They are gigging this weekend, and I will let you know exactly where if you stick around for the gig list at the end. I will have you buy the short and curlies. You have to wait, won't you? So, news. It's time for a little bit of music news. Here we go with music news. Oh, bringing the jingle back, mate. So, how long will Spotify allow bootleg podcasts to top the charts? This is the news that a substantial number of podcast bootleggers are delivering illegal music to Spotify users, and it's unclear how or if the streaming service will stem the tide of copyright infringement and stolen royalties. So, basically, according to a report by Pitchfork, the renowned music journalists, a simple but effective process allows users to make demos, live recordings, and take unreleased tracks and a slew of otherwise unpublished songs and make them available for all to enjoy on Spotify. The works are basically disguised as podcasts. So, the way that I put music on Spotify is done by TuneCore, an aggregate like DistroKid, that kind of thing. But podcast is different, and something we use Podbean for the Harley and Josh show, and that gets put on and distributed to lots of different podcast sort of suppliers. So Spotify would be one of those. I don't think we're on Spotify actually, but I'm not sure if that's done through Podbean. But these people are basically uploading a podcast to an aggregate and it gets put onto Spotify, and there's not really a system in place to check whether that's actually a podcast or whether it's somebody talking or like a radio show, or if it's just all music and unreleased stuff and stuff that the artists don't want people to be hearing. So, the streaming giant has not established especially stringent copyright infringement filters for non-music content, like podcasts, and in turn, the compilations are staying live for sizable periods of time, long enough to rise to the top of the podcast charts in many cases. Sam from iRadio and I were just talking outside about mixtapes and how, a lot of the time, if you're a DJ, you would, put together like a set and put it up on SoundCloud and things. And, that's kind of allowed up there because they've got the right rights for it, and the artists will get compensated for that. However, when it comes to podcasts, that's not the case. That's why we take the music out of our podcast when we put it up for Thursdays, because we don't own the rights for it, and we don't want to get anybody. We don't want any of the artists that we play to get sort of stingied out of money, if that's the word for it. While the inspiration for posting bootleg music may not be financial, because these people aren't going to be making money. We don't make any money from the podcasts. If we did make any money, which we don't, it would be on sort of adverts and things. So I don't know how people might monetize that via Spotify, but I doubt that that's a thing. So it's more just sort of, like how people used to just sort of put stuff up on LimeWire and BearShare and people would download it. It'd be peer-to-peer. They wouldn't make any money off it. It's just a sort of community thing where people like to be able to share other people's music. Which, sharing other people's music, that's what we all do. We all lend each other CDs or like, we'll all sort of make each other mixtapes or burn each other CDs to take in the car. And those are within certain certain copyright guidelines to a degree, if you're not doing millions of people. But when it comes to, putting it out there on a podcast so that thousands can listen to it and then rip it off that podcast, that is very, very, very dodgy. The affected artists are being very directly and seriously impacted. To climb to the top of the podcast charts on Spotify, a program must receive many plays and positive reviews. So, the communities are there to exploit this. So what do you guys think? Should Spotify find ways to analyze these podcasts that are getting put up there to find out whether they are all music or whether they're all chat? How would they do that? What kind of algorithm would they need? And would that be kind of infringing on the people that are paying to put stuff up there? That would definitely slow down the amount of time it would take to get your podcast up there if you're in a rush. I mean, the amount of times that we've rushed this and I've uploaded it on the Thursday morning or something, and if then it suddenly says, oh, this is going to take 24 hours to process because we need to find out that you have the rights for the different things that you're playing on this podcast, that could completely mess people's timelines up. So interesting thing. Let me guys know what you guys think. I'm going to play you another piece of music because I've got 3 more songs to get through, mate. Got 3 more songs. Another band that are playing locally this weekend. You can stick around for the gig list to find out where and when. Are For the Hornets. We've played this track on the show before. They haven't got anything new since this track, but this is still my favourite one that they play. This is Digits by For the Hornets. Check them out. That was Digits by For the Hornets. Short and sweet and absolutely rocking. I love that tune. They are playing this weekend. Stick around for the gig list. I'll tell you what, it feels really good to be back with you guys. It's been quite tough to feel absolutely useless over the past couple of weeks because of being ill and having a chest infection. And just, having friends and family, including my mum, my dad, and my girlfriend, and Murray, helping me out and just sort of keeping me company and keeping my spirits up. So being able to be back on my feet and doing stuff for myself feels really good. So thanks for being with me, you guys. So let's talk a little bit more about some music news. So the UK has offered a firm post-Brexit immigration statement. The BPI, the British Phonographic Industry, has warned against unreasonable bureaucracy. So that's why this is on the show. We're not talking Brexit constantly. So having finalised the Brexit deal and officially exited the European Union. Well, they haven't finalised the Brexit deal, but we've officially exited the European Union and we're in the transition period now. The United Kingdom is taking steps to fundamentally change its immigration policy, as indicated by a statement posted on the UK government's official website. If you haven't seen this, it'll be an interesting read for you. It's a new points-based immigration system. It looks tough. It looks very, very tough. And it's going to be difficult for a lot of musicians. As expected, free movement, the ability of EU citizens to enter and exit the United Kingdom as they please, will be halted beginning in January 2021, so about a year from now. New visitor registration services will aim to more thoroughly document who enters and exits the UK, and post-Brexit border security will be bolstered. Additionally, a points-based immigration system will be part of a broader initiative to attract skilled foreigners to the country. Skilled foreigners. The points-based system sets salary thresholds for non-citizen professionals who wish to become employed in the UK. In addition to evaluating these individuals based upon qualifications, education, experience, and more. Presumably, the European Union could fire back with the requirements for their own, which would affect the way the UK artists seek permission to perform in European Union states. That's why I'm really, really wanting to tour this year. I'm going to hopefully be booking a European tour this year as a transition period, and I would recommend that to everybody who is a musician listening in. This could be the last time we have frictionless travel around the EU to tour. So, it's now or never. It could be now or never. So, what else we got here? Late last month, the UK government stated that it would not enforce the European Union's much criticised copyright directive. So that's that Article 13, Article 11 thing that we've been talking about on the show for ages. All of that time we were talking about it going, this is really going to affect content creators, YouTube personalities, podcasts, hosts and things. And now the UK is not going to use it. So there we go, because there's an EU directive. It will strengthen copyright laws by holding web platforms liable for the content their users upload. So, I mean, that is a good thing because people like Facebook, well, companies like Facebook and YouTube need to pay for the media that uses. But it's just, it will limit what kind of, we can share. So only registered copyright holders will be allowed to share their media under the directive. So I don't know what's going to happen, whether the UK is going to kind of have a counter law for that, whether it will change, we'll have a different Article 13 style thing to hold these kind of big social media companies to account so that artists do get properly compensated. But the point of the story basically was about the immigration system that will be coming in. I mean, our music industry in the UK is helped massively by people migrating to the UK. A lot of people that I met that were university students coming over here to study started some amazing bands. I met a lot of amazing Italian jazz musicians when I was in London. I work for one, Diego, from Bravo Stonemarket. And it will. I mean, I think the threshold for salary is about 23 to 24 grand. If you have to be able to come into the UK, you have to be earning about that much, and have sort of confirmation of work, qualifications, being able to speak English, all this sort of stuff, to be able to do it. And that's, I think, the average amount of money that somebody working in the music industry earns is about 21 to 22 grand a year. So to be able to work in the UK in the music industry, from a different country, you're going to have to get quite a well-paid job in the music industry, which is difficult to find. It's difficult to find as a musician. If you're going to be working as a music executive or industry professional like A&R, those jobs may be slightly more accessible, but still, it's going to affect the sort of the people that are earning a much less from the industry, very disproportionately in comparison to people that are on the top level jobs. As per usual, isn't that always the way, isn't it? But anyway, what do you guys think? Are you a fan of this, points-based immigration system? Do you think it won't affect the music industry that much, or do you think it will affect the industry too much? We do really want you guys to opinions. We want you guys to let us know what you want us to talk about and the kind of things that you want us to report on. Okay, so that's another news story down. I mean, all these news stories are just coming at you live. So let's talk. I don't know. I'm going to play you another song, actually, because it's a very music-y Monday. I'm feeling music-y this Monday. So this is a new band I've found. Well, I didn't find them. They found themselves. But I'm really happy I found them. It's in my life now. They're from Norwich. They are playing locally this weekend, just like all the bands that you've heard today on this show. They're called Marigolds. I had a very tough time choosing which track to play today. It was between their newest single, which I've really got to find out what the name of that one was because I've forgotten already. The song I'm going to play for you is called Everglades, and it's great. It's got a lot of pace to it. It's changeable. The structure is very fluid. There's no tempo changes per se, but it feels like the pace quickens and slows. What is the most recent one? Spinning. Spinning was the other track. It had this really amazing wonky drum beat that was just immediately caught my ear because it was different and felt like it was pushing boundaries. I like these guys because they say they've got this sort of indie spring reverb twinge, but they've got this city in colour, a bit of sort of post-hardcore pop punk influence in there as well. So check this song out. This is one of the newest singles from Marigolds. This is called Everglades. Hope you enjoy it. That is one of the best written songs we've played on this show. I will say that hands down. It is wonderful. It's just very, very well structured. Great harmonies, great melodies that will stick with you. So that is Marigolds with Everglades. Everglades. They are playing this. Sorry, still coughing. They are playing this weekend, and you need to check them out. Stick around for the gig list to find out where. Now, let's get on to one last bit of news. Sofar Sounds overhauls artist payments after being fined $460,000. Music news. Yes, we've talked about Sofar Sounds before. They've had problems before, and now we're reporting on them again. As part of the update, which was announced via Sofar's website, quote, the beginnings of a brand new artist dashboard, end quote, have been instituted. When complete, this optimized dashboard will enable Sofar musicians to more quickly and easily access booking information and event specifics, in addition to promptly reserving performance slots. So that'll be an interesting thing, actually, because that's a difficult thing when you're planning gigs, is being able to be in contact with promoters, the venue, and other bands, and the sound engineer. So if this is a successful piece of software, it could really, make those Sofar gigs even smoother. A beta has been made available to some Sofar users, with a wider rollout tentatively scheduled for March this year. Plus, the upcoming dashboard on the website will boast enhanced artist communication tools through which performers can connect with other performers that they've met on the road, which is, like I was saying, it's a great way to sort of minimize sort of friction between performing musicians and contact, and will prompt attendees to support artists, which is a great idea. Most significantly, though, Sofar Sounds revealed that they will continue to work towards a 70-30 profit split in the artist's favour. So 70% of the profits will go to the artist for standard shows in ticketed cities. In doing so, artists who sell a relatively large number of tickets will be paid comparatively more. For ticketed city performers who sell between 0 and 70 tickets, Sofar will pay $100. Anywhere between 71 and 100 sold tickets will earn artists about $125, and 101 plus attendees will result in artists being paid about $150. The rate applies to all standard shows in ticketed cities, according to Sofar. So far, that's not quite as specific as I'd like to be with you guys. I've not played a Sofar show, so I don't know if they're saying that would be $150 per artist that performs, or if that's basically it's $150 and that gets split up between all the performers. Who knows? So basically, the New York Department of Labor investigation zeroed in on more than 650 individuals whom Sofar classified as ambassadors, quote, and did not compensate, so they didn't pay him. Sofar execs were said to have cooperated with the investigation, after which $460,357.50 was paid out to the affected employees. Now, this is a case in New York, but Sofar is a London-based company. The above described overhaul was planned. Importantly, many cities book Sofar shows on a volunteer basis, and at these events, audience members can pay as much or as little as they like. Sofar Sounds concerts typically involve 3 up-and-coming acts. Artists, dancers, and even comedians can apply on the company's website, so check out Sofar Sounds' website. Venues are announced 24 hours beforehand. Guests aren't told who will be playing until they arrive, and each artist's set generally lasts 20 to 25 minutes. So, it is a great idea. It is a great idea. I mean, all companies do end up with these kind of things, so these kind of problems. So I don't know. I think we really do need to keep working with Sofar Sounds, and I'm going to be applying to play for them, and see if I can get on a gig with them. It's all gig experience in the end. And speaking of gig experience, I want to take you to our next section, which we call
Thing I thought about this morning.
Jingle.
A thing I thought about this morning. So I was trying to think, because usually we like to use this point of the show to have a discussion on a musical subject. Things in the past we've used. Is there a point of a music critic anymore? and is there such thing as bad music, that kind of thing. But it's very difficult for me to have a discussion and a debate with myself, even though I am on Facebook Live right now and talking to wonderful people. What I wanted to give you guys was a little bit of insight from a professional's perspective. So what I wanted to give you was kind of a checklist for getting gigs. So if you are a musician, or if you are a band, especially if you're just starting out, this is, there's going to be, if you're already in a band, some of this stuff might seem just a little bit, well, duh, but some of it may not. So, if you feel you know a lot, listen anyway. So what you kind of need is a promo package, at least, to start off with. So if you've literally just written some songs and you think, I'm gonna play a gig, or even if you've just rehearsed some cover songs and you're like, I want to play a gig, get yourself a promo package. Now, this can involve things like photos, videos, recordings, and basically anything that can show you off in a good light. Get yourself a bio, write out, what you kind of plan to do at shows, and what you sound like. Describe it. Describe what your live performance would be like. If you have any, kooky little sort of novelties, like the singer has a snake, or you dress up as zombies. That kind of thing. Just adding it in there so that it stands out. Find your USP, your unique selling point, and get it in there. Everybody needs to have that so that, people, when they're just sort of reading a new band's bio, can be very bored of reading bands' bios. So keep that in mind. So next, what you want to do is make a list of venues that you want to gig in. I mean, be realistic with this. I mean, everybody wants to play at the O2 or Wembley or whatever. But be realistic, but also, shoot for the stars a little bit. So think about their usual genre. So look at the kind of, once you find a venue, look at the kind of bands that are playing. If you're a death metal band and you want to play at Dingwalls, most of the stuff they play there is going to be indie rock. So you're going to be less likely to play there. But if you apply at the Black Heart in Camden, which plays a lot of death metal, you'll be much more likely to get in there. So really do your research into these venues and think about what kind of venue, sort of clientele as well. Like, look at the pictures, look at what kind of people are turning up. If you don't see anybody there with long hair, studs, and tattoos, and a metal band T-shirt, then you're going to be less likely to get a death metal gig there. But it can be quite difficult to gauge. Think about the travel distance as well. So if you're from Ipswich and you want to get a gig in St Albans or something, think that's going to take you at least an hour and a half to get there. So if it's a Friday, you got to think about finishing work and getting there on time, whether it's viable or not, and also whether you know anybody in that town. Like, do you know anybody from St Albans? One, for a place to crash maybe, but also whether they would turn up to the gig and whether they might be able to help you spread the word about the show. And it will help you to know whether you actually will have an impact in that town. I mean, you're going to end up playing in towns that you don't know anybody there. I've done so many of those, and still will play to a packed audience because that's just, they go there for a gig. But that's what you kind of want to think about with a venue is, do people just go there for gigs? If you're going to a pub, if you're going to play for a pub, there's usually a restaurant and they have live music every once in a while, that doesn't bode well for the fact of people are just going to go there expecting a gig to happen, right? So there needs to be a lot of promotion that goes into that. So do your research into your venue, right? Make a list of them, put them on Excel. That's usually a good thing. So once you've done that, you want to make a list of contacts for those venues, put them in that like Excel spreadsheet. And so the thing is, a lot of the time, apologies, a lot of the time with these venues, you would look online for their contact details, and most of the time what you would find is info at dingwalls.co.uk or something like that, and that would just go to a general inbox if you wanted to email them and do you no good. It would just get lost amongst a bunch of sort of, queries from customers that they will care a bit more about. If a customer's saying, I've got a booking and I need to know this, and this, they're going to prioritize that over a band, emailing in and saying, I want a gig with you guys. Can you check this out? Like, that's going to take them more time and maybe give their business less sometimes than replying to customer queries. So don't just go for the info at Chinnery's or info at the Portland Arms. Look on their website, find a contact number and call them up, or even better, go to the venue, talk to them and say to them, even people behind the bar and stuff. I mean, I did that at the Cavern Club in Liverpool. I just said to them, look, I've looked on the website and there's contact details on there, but it's all like booking at Cavern Club. Is there a specific promoter or, manager that I should be talking to? And they just wrote it down on a piece of receipt paper and gave it to me. And I'm in contact with them now. It's just little things like a bit of personal touch. I've talked about this on the show before. White Buffalo, he used to call up venues and he would basically sing down the phone to them onto their voicemail and say, look, this is what I sound like. Would you like me to gig with you? And because that's different, they would think about it and they would get in contact with them. So find a number, go to the venue, talk to them and get a proper contact email for them. Think about the promoters that these places use as well. So, Matt Catling puts on gigs at the Smokehouse. Darren Smith puts stuff on the Premier Pool Club. And these guys also put gigs on around town. So look at, if you think about Washing Machine in Bury, they put a lot of stuff on at the Hunter Club. If you get in contact with the Washing Machine rather than the Hunter Club, that may get you give you a better chance of getting a gig, because the club aren't always the people that are putting on gigs and looking for bands. They may just be putting them onto the promoter. So you're kind of cutting out the middleman there and it's going straight to a promoter, which would really help you. Think about how you approach them as well, like your bargaining power. Analyze what other artists are doing around you in terms of promotion and marketing. Now marketing it can confuse a lot of people. I've got you a little definition of marketing here. Okay, so marketing is the process of interesting potential customers and clients in your products and or services. So it involves a bit of promotion, but it also involves selecting who your market is and who the people are that you want involved in your product. The key word this marketing definition is process. Marketing involves researching, promoting, selling, and distributing your products or services. So yeah, it's a process. Marketing is a process. It's not an end goal, if that makes sense. Look for support opportunities as well. So there's another point for you. Look at these, so if you see that a big band is going to play in a venue close to you, talk to them and say, have you got not so much the artist, but talk to the venue and say, have you got a support artist for this? Talk to the promoter and say, have you got a support artist for this? I think I'm perfect. Again, look at what kind of band it is though. So again, if you're a death metal band and it's a hip hop act playing, you're going to be less likely to get that. Loss leaders. A loss leader is a very important thing to be able to offer. If you're just starting out, think about the fact of that supply in this business is way higher than demand. We all want good music, but there's always more music out there than we can actually physically listen to or go and see. And venues can't put on all artists. So you've got to think about, right, so in some senses, I need this venue more than they need me right now. Don't sit there and just prostrate yourself for them, because you do have to have worth and you need to know that you are good. But think about it. Don't sit there and think, okay, I need to be getting paid X amount. Sometimes you just have to say, how much do you pay? They say the number and you say, okay, take it on the chin. Think about the fact of this, if I take this now and then later, if it's a really good show, then later on I might be able to ask for more money, right? Remember to say thank you as well. Talk to the bands you play with. Say, it was a pleasure to play with you. Talk to the promoter and say thanks for giving us the gig. The shoe isn't always on your foot because you did a lot of work to get there. Sometimes it's just a good idea to be friendly and thank people for the opportunity of playing with them, right? That's helped me a lot. And it's also helped me a lot to be able to take things on the chin. If people are critical, you need to just sometimes just take stuff. Because like, if, you know, if somebody shortchanges you or, you know, and goes back on an agreement, that's different. You know, you take them to town. But if they're just like, that wasn't good, or I don't think that you were right for this, or I don't like the way that you acted, sometimes you have to just go, all right, take it. And the process of me not, you know, giving them lip and going back at them may help to sort of get you in their good books in a way. I mean, if you want to be in their good books, right? Think for festivals, look for stage managers and promoters. Don't just go info at Leeds Festival or just call their booking line. Really, again, do your research. Who's putting the stuff on? Who's booking the artists? Who's the talent bookers? And get in touch with them. Think about stage managers, promoters, sound engineers. You can find them on LinkedIn. Sometimes you can just Google, you know, who does the sound for this stage. Find out who works for them on LinkedIn and talk to them. Sneaky, but sometimes it works, right? Pricing is important. Okay, so if you're a covers band, don't undersell yourself. You can get gigs easy if you know, charge 50 quid to 150 quid or something like that. You know, pubs will just snap you up and they'll be like, yeah, cool, whatever. But you can get taken advantage of. Like, gigging is a lot of work, and just because you're doing it for a hobby maybe doesn't mean that you should just go out for cheap. Because what happens then is that you end up undercutting local bands that are, you know, a local band that's charging 350 quid and you're charging half of that. Then you may be taking work away from them. You know, that may be no skin off your nose, but that band will probably dislike you and then may start talking about you and spreading you know, these bands would be more connected than you are half the time. So if they start talking about you to other bands, promoters, venues, because they know more people than you do, you're gonna end up getting less work. So don't undercut, don't undersell. Really do your research on your price and stick to it. It's important. If you're an originals band, the supply is way higher. Like I said, the supply is way higher than demand, so don't expect much money. Think about pitching how much money you can make them. So you can sit there and say, my music is upbeat, it's dancey, it's drinking music. People are going to buy stuff at the bar. We're going to be, you know, the crowd that we would bring are big drinkers, or they're, you know, they will buy merch from the other bands, or, you know, this kind of thing. So really get involved and let people know that you can earn the money. All right, so that's the end of that. Let me know if there are anything I missed there that you think that can help you get gigs, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about on the show in the future. I'm going to get to the gig list and shut up talking about myself. Gig list. All right, so we'll start off with tonight. There's a gig tonight, 24th of February. It's the Duke open mic night. If you've got some music that you want to check out and test out, go to the Duke of York in Ipswich tonight at 7:30. Also tonight, see, you got to listen to the podcast. You got to listen to the show live to get these gigs. It's no good listening on Thursday. 24th of February. Talking Sleeve are live at the Monday Night Metal Night Mayhem, thanks to Darren at the Brewers Arms tonight. Good old Andy, nice one for putting that one on. That's 8 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, Tuesday, 25th February, we've got the Ipswich Open Mic, Hallowed Be Thy Mic, which is an amazing name for an open mic night thing. That's at the Briarbank Brewing Company, Tuesday, 25th of Feb. So again, test your music out. 28th, that is Friday. The Lurkers are coming to Ipswich. They are from up north, and Smart Alex from Ipswich are supporting. That's at the Steamboat Tavern. If you like your punk, old school stuff like The Addicts, etc., get yourself down to the Smokehouse. Also Friday, Rolled Up Sleeves, Slater and Tom Peplow are all playing at Coda in Colchester in Essex. That is at 9 o'clock. Also on Friday, Blue Mean Eyes, Gold Bloom, Our Mates Pale Girls, what up Gav, and the amazing Marigolds, who we played earlier, are playing at the Smokehouse this Friday, 28th. That'll be about 7:30, I expect to get there. Also, Friday, so much going on Friday, 28th of February, Killer Tricks, Pink Lemonade, Bag of Cans, they're mental, as well as, who we played earlier, For the Hornets, are playing at the John Peel Centre in Church Walk in Stowmarket. A lot of bands from Norwich there, so bands that you wouldn't always see, so check that out at Stowmarket on Friday. On Saturday, we've gotten to the Sonic Oscillators, Ed Sykes, and, who we played earlier, Surfquake. If you like your surf and rockabilly, get yourself down to the Colchester Arts Centre on Saturday night. 2 more gigs we've got on Saturday. Also, our mates, all right, Luke, Trip Switch are playing at the Kingfisher in Ipswich. That will probably start about 8 o'clock, I'm going to say. So that is Saturday at the Kingfisher in Ipswich. And the last one, the guy that we're going to play off the show, Sunday, 3 o'clock at Isaac's, Mr. Barney Holmes, old acquaintance of mine. He's got a brand new single out. And before I say goodbye, I'm going to play this. Well, I'm going to say goodbye and then play this. Thank you so much for having me back. You've helped me to feel not ill again, so I appreciate you guys. This is Montagues and Capulets from Barney Holmes. Check it out. I love you. Goodbye.